Hello, this is Ellen Madono. I'm from Tokyo Homeopathy, and we've been going through a case with a student, and the student is actually having quite a bit of trouble using the short list of symptoms in the polarity analysis. So what I thought I'd do is lead you through a interview with a patient. This isn't the kind of patient that beginning students have, because I've worked with this patient for quite a while and I know her very well. And I've also, before I decided to videotape this, I had reviewed the patient's condition. So I know a little bit, probably had talked to her for 15 minutes. This kind of case is called a follow-up. And you really want to have these long-term patients who do follow-ups, because then you can find out what your remedy actually is capable of doing, and you can evaluate it. Patients' conditions. Since this is an old patient, I don't have to train the patient. She has done polarity analysis with me many times before. And it's not the same as treating a new patient. I hope that you can understand the difference here. And furthermore, I know this patient's disposition fairly well. So I asked some leading questions at the end of the interview to kind of expose what in the remedy is similar to the patient's disposition. But I only know how to ask these questions because I actually know this patient and I know what the answers are. So again, this is not a situation that you will have when you interview a new patient. Please notice that I'm using the short list of rubrics, and I'm really not looking for other rubrics. I ask probing questions, and some of them sound like they're leading questions. This is probably not a good example to follow. Everyone tells you should not ask leading questions, but I'm really trying to decide whether to use this rubric or another rubric that's similar to it. And sometimes I even go back to the same rubric and I'm checking again and checking again. The conversation kind of wanders. I don't think that the patient notices because she's being encouraged to chatter freely. But sometimes I interrupt her because I know what she's going to say and I know it's not going to be very useful for this particular question list. And I also know her fairly well. So I wouldn't, in a beginning patient, I wouldn't do what I'm doing with this patient. You have to adjust what I'm saying, the way I'm approaching this, to your own situation with a new patient. In this case, the patient believes that the remedy that I gave her before worked, because actually I told her, well, why don't you take that remedy that worked before? And she's using it, and it seems to have helped. But I'm actually wanting to change her remedy because one, the remedy doesn't seem to make her problems go away. That's one. And the other one is this patient, when I gave her this remedy, it was very interesting. She had a lot of water that was collecting in her abdomen. And that water drained from her abdomen, and it put a lot of pressure on her kidney. And I think because of that drainage, she actually had kidney problems. And if she had first of all informed me, told me when she had the problem, and we had decrease the amount of remedy that she was using, and 2, we could have helped her with her kidney problem much earlier. But she waited and went to the doctor and got prednisone, which turned out to be very, very, very bad for her health in general. I wasn't too happy with what had happened with the remedy that I had first prescribed, and I'm looking for a different remedy for the same problem of rheumatoid arthritis.
Into that old apartment in Everett, and I found the contract that I signed at the very beginning, 1995.
But you actually moved from Japan. You were living in Japan for a long time, and then you moved to the United States, and then you got back to Seattle where you were born, right, and raised. It's been a long time, and I think I started taking your case sometime during that time. I forget when, but it's a long time ago, huh?
Yes. Yep. 90, I would say 90, 96, maybe 97.
Yeah.
98.
Yeah. My son's nearly 4, he's like 36, 37, and he was a teenager when I sent him to you, right?
Yes, he was doing
kayaking.
He was, but also he was in the orchestra because he practiced. He had his violin with him, and he played for me.
Yeah.
He did. He did. Yeah.
Okay, so we go back a while, and then you started having this rheumatic arthritis problems. How long was that ago?
Oh, jeepers. That was before I retired. I retired 2015. So it must have been, maybe 2 or 3 years before that.
But before that, I remember I visited you and you were all bent over, and I said, Mary, you can't do that. You have to. And you said, oh, it's okay. I'm fine. Right?
Uh-huh.
And I just shrugged my shoulders and said, well, what can I do?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But it was the beginning. You were already beginning the rheumatoid arthritis.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. And I had a car accident. Somebody rear-ended me. Mm-hmm. And I remember when the doctor did the, I did the MRI and X-rays and all of that stuff. And the doctor said that I had arthritis in my back. Mm-hmm. But, I just, well, okay.
You had a lot of other problems besides arthritis in your back.
Yeah. So, and many people told me to stand up straight. I didn't realize how bent over I was.
Yeah.
And when I started doing the exercises for Cooley, Bob Cooley.
Yeah.
I can't see myself, so. But somebody said, "Oh, you're standing up so straight now," So when all of this kind of calms down, then I'm going to go back to I haven't been able to do the exercises, so I'm going to start doing those. And I realize now that I have to have the expansion of the chest because it really does affect the lungs.
Yeah, and you're 81 years old now?
81.
81.
Mm-hmm.
10 years older than me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so recently you moved to an apartment, right? Oh, we're skipping the kidney incident. I think we should include that. You've had many other horrible things happening, but the kidney was the last one.
Well, and my GP, if I had it was a very complicated visit with the doctor because he had another doctor that was interning with him, and it was he said you're 80 years old, 50% of kidney is good for your age. This
isn't the doctor who gave you the medication. This is a different doctor.
No.
Right?
that was a different doctor. Yeah,
the doctor
he's
who
retired now.
gave you the medication that really took you down. That was he didn't take any responsibility for that at all, right?
No, no. And his way of thinking is very different. So if I had just, I was panicked, because I had just taken a friend of mine to a Swedish hospital in Seattle, and we went through because she wouldn't go. She kept putting it off and putting it off. She had 10% of her kidneys, and it was like, okay, you're going to have to do dialysis or you're going to die, Mm-hmm. So we went for the orientation. So it was very interesting, and I learned a great deal about dialysis.
Just enough to scare you.
Yes, exactly. So when this 50% thing came up, it was like, oh, am I going to go down to 10%? What's going to happen, And then the GP was not, if I had just listened to him, then all of this other stuff with the kidneys would not have happened.
But anyway, you got out of it, right? I gave you kidney support. I gave you Barabas. Kidney support, and I gave you support for your bones. You're very afraid of
prednisone, and you sent me prednisone also.
Prednisone to get off the medicine.
Yeah.
It's energetic prednisone. And you got off it.
Yes, I had a pill cutter. Somebody gave me a pill cutter many, many years ago. So, and also you told me that I could just take a knife. You told me I could take a knife and just and that's what I did.
Uh-huh.
I just little by little shaved a little bit more off, and reduced it that way.
So you didn't follow any formula. You just reduced it a little at a time.
Yeah.
And that was enough. And it wasn't dangerous.
Yep. No.
I told you to be very careful, not to just cut it off, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got out of. How long have you been off of prednisone?
Oh, I don't know. Because of the prednisone in October, I had a X-ray, and I found out that I had the lower back L4 was fractured.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, and so it must have been a month or 2 months before that I stopped the prednisone.
But you could hardly walk after that fracture, right? That lasted a year or half year. It lasted a long time.
Well, October, November, December, I just stayed in bed because I wanted it to heal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so all I did was pee and eat, cook and eat, and that was it.
And
I decided that healing was the most important part, and so I just stayed in bed.
And you have no family who takes care of you there, and your friends helped you, right? Or that was about it.
Yeah.
It's not like you're an extremely sociable person, but you have good friends.
Well, ironically, or whatever, one of the people in the pottery studio said, if you need any help, and this was before anything happened, she said, just call me. And so I did. And then I can't remember why I called the other woman. And so between the two of them, they helped me with the grocery shopping.
Isn't that incredible? And you had so much trouble at the pottery studio.
Well, it was because of that one woman.
It was one woman, but actually you had a lot of good relationships.
Yes. Of course. I'm a friendly person. I'm a friendly person. I'm a friendly, kind person.
You've taken care of a lot of other people, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's get into this case here, and I want what I want students to understand is how I'm asking questions and how I'm using this checklist, because this checklist is the most important. You can't see it, but I'm videotaping this checklist, and I'm asking questions and on the checklist, really going down and checking everything, and I'm asking you questions, and I think I'm either you're taking Restocks now, so either you're going to continue taking Restocks, but it's not holding up. Well, you didn't take it for, how long didn't you take it?
Oh, for a couple weeks.
Yeah, and you've been taking it every day, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you had been diluting it, right? You've been using the 5-cup method.
Mm-hmm.
And diluting it so you could take it every day. And I wanted you to do that so that it would cut through the medications. And now you're not taking any medications. And I just feel like you've been through so much, it's possible that your rheumatoid arthritis has changed somewhat. So what I'd like you to answer is how this, you had this sudden flare-up. That's why you contacted me. And what the flare-up was like. I'm going to be asking you a bunch of questions. The list isn't, it's 4 pages long. So it's not forever, but there's a lot of questions. And I want you to answer with as much information of background as you can about these questions, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so first of all, I want to know about air, temperature, the weather, wrapping yourself, anything that has to do with cold and damp and warmth. Does this change your flare-up? We're talking about the flare-up. We're not talking about you in general. You in general are a fairly warm person. You lived in a very cold, drafty apartment, and you were not wonderful, but you're okay. And you had the windows open, and you never had any heat in Seattle, Washington, which is pretty cold in the winter, right?
Well, when it gets 45, 50, I'm okay. When it gets down to 30s, then I would use the heating pad in my bed, and also I would use the oven to heat the living room area, the kitchen living room area.
I wish we could find some solution so you weren't using the heating pad. That electricity directly on your body really messes up your energy. It may be the reason why you have rheumatoid arthritis in the beginning. It's really a bad thing to be doing. If you could use a hot water bottle, it would be a lot better.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll think about that. Right now, you've moved into a house for the elderly, housing complex for the elderly. You're totally independent, but it's a supported housing unit, right? And 80% of the people are Korean, and nobody talks to you because...
80%.
Huh?
No, 80%. 80% are Korean.
80% are Korean, and no one talks because it's COVID. And anyway, you've managed to find a few friendly conversations there. So we're on air, weather, temperature, and wrapping. Is
the air and temperature? I don't think it really has that much to do with the flare-up. This apartment really is much warmer. I didn't realize it until I went today. It's a sunny day, and the apartment in Everett should have been warmer than I expected, and it wasn't. So when I came back here in Linwood, there's something about the I don't want to say architecture. It's engineering. It's the engineering that that keeps this warm. And I'm on the third floor, so
it's warmer. But
it's warmer.
We're talking about your hand. Your hand is the what is it? Can you describe your hand? The left wrist in the flare-up. The left wrist became swollen, hot, and painful. Mm-hmm. And it's the side of the hand on the little finger side or the thumb side.
The index finger.
Oh, index finger.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's that first, I don't know what you call it, where the knuckle is, the first, where you bend at the first place there, the first part there. I don't know what you call that.
If you were going to hit somebody, you'd hit them with that joint, right? Oh, you don't do the same thing. Okay.
And I can't bend it, I can't bend it fully, because it's all swollen.
You can't bend it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't bend it completely, like I could before when you make a fist, Yeah,
So what makes
it won't
it worse?
go. What makes it worse?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I thought, I've been lazy and I've been taking carnation breakfast, and I thought, maybe it's the sugar in the carnation breakfast.
Oh, okay.
And so,
but as far as the weather goes, what makes it better? Does it help if you put something warm on it, or
no? The icing feels good. Yeah, the icing.
I see.
I don't know if it. Yeah, I don't think it. I don't. Yeah, the ice feels good. Yeah.
So you just try to put something very cold, in fact, ice on that hot, swollen hand.
Area. Yeah.
And what if you put something warm on it, or you're in a warm place? Does it get worse?
No, not necessarily. I really don't know, because when I go to sleep, then my hands are under the covers, and it's warm.
And you put them under the covers?
So, yes, yeah.
Okay, so you're not warm. Putting something warm on them doesn't make any difference, but putting something cold on it makes a big difference.
It feels good. I don't know if it really, the swelling goes down or anything.
Well, we're talking about your feeling more than anything.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't need the medical opinion here. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So it feels good. It feels better when I have something cold on it, even if it's my other hand that's cold, and I hold it with the other hand that's cold. It feels good.
Oh, it feels good. Okay, but you also like to have a little pressure on it. You said
a little bit, because
should you rub it? Is the best thing to rub it, or just touching it, or just a little bit of pressure?
Just a little bit. Well, rubbing, kind of like rubbing, but very, not real hard. Just
light rubbing.
Yeah, light rubbing.
How about pressure? Not so much.
Pressure, not so much.
Okay. When you have this...
Well, kind of like holding it, like supporting it. Not pressure, but
well, you're having trouble with your arm. It's higher up on your arm as well, right?
The right arm, not the left arm.
Oh, it's a different arm. Okay.
Yeah.
So holding it seems to be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, holding the wrist area.
So it's a kind of a touch.
Well, it's more of a support. Because I'm holding it with my hand, and it's wrapped around the wrist. So I was thinking maybe getting a wrist support thing. They have those things, and I thought maybe that would
Do you think that
helpful.
moving it is good or bad?
Moving is painful.
Moving, it's painful. And you think if you had a wrist support, it probably would help with not moving it?
Maybe, yeah, maybe, and maybe that feeling of support would be good for it.
You were saying something about reading a book in bed.
Yep.
You like to do that a lot, right?
Yes, yes.
And how does that work?
Since I can't hold the book with my left hand because I don't have enough strength, so what I've done is I lay on my right side, and then I prop the book up so it's half, the left page I can read because it's sitting up, and then I hold the book up for the other side of the page, for the other page. So I'm usually I lay on my back and I hold the book with both hands, but now I can't do that. So I'm propping it up so I can read on my right side.
What about holding the phone?
Holding the phone has been painful. Today is better. I'm holding it right now. So, yeah,
you
so
took the
it's much better.
and it's feeling better.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So let's see, you're right-handed, right? You write with your right hand. So how about doing little things like cracking eggs or mixing up eggs in the bowl? How's that?
I do that with my right hand because those are things that are low. Right now I'm having difficulty with my right arm lifting it higher. So I'm doing exercises like walking up the wall and there's another exercise that I do that I put my arms out, my right arm out, and
but this right arm that is hurting, is this because of the rheumatoid arthritis or is this an injury?
I think it's an injury. I think it's a muscle. It's muscle.
Because you moved, right? You were carrying boxes and that sort of thing.
I was carrying heavy bags of paper that I have to go through and sort out here.
And so you were carrying these bags of paper. So you hurt your arm. You know when you hurt your arm. It was fairly obvious.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a muscle.
So I'm not going to include this in the rheumatoid arthritis because we're going pretty specifically for this. Okay.
Yeah.
But raising that arm hurts, right?
Yeah.
How about can you stretch out your fingers? Can you open them up?
Yeah.
No problem.
That's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So closing them is the problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, making a fist is
making a fist is the problem.
Yeah, it's a little bit painful.
Okay. When you have this hand problem, you said that it sort of took over your life when your hand started hurting so much.
Yeah, because the right arm, I couldn't move. Now I can move it a little bit better, but there for a while I couldn't reach a long distance. So I was using my left hand and my left arm, and then I realized I would drop things,
Oh, because you have no strength.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's understandable. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you better in any position with this problem? I mean, you're having all these problems with doing things, but just to get the pain to go down, Is it better if you lie down or sit down or stand up or?
Well, yeah. Well, ordinarily, I've been taking Tylenol, and for me, any kind of medication is so after I take the Tylenol, then I'll lay down and I how can I say it? As I said, I was holding my wrist, and then I'll fall asleep. 2 hours. I'll go to sleep for 2 hours. So it's I've been laying down more. I've been laying down and sleeping more than I have being up and walking around.
And how does it affect you to be laying down for such, more time than usual?
It's not good. It's really not good. Today I, with the help of my neighbor, I think I spent 3 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours, and I was just exhausted. So I need to be up and walking around and being more active, so that I can do things.
So when you take the Tylenol, what is the effect of the Tylenol?
The Tylenol cuts down the pain and also makes me very sleepy. So, yeah. Yeah.
And so just sleeping itself, does that help you with the pain? When you wake up, is the pain less?
Yes, I think so. I think, yeah.
Okay.
But I think the Rutox, when I started taking that has changed everything. So I'm looking forward to not taking this Tylenol anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So today, are you moving around more?
Yes. Yeah.
Just sort of purposely you're doing that, right?
Yes. And I had to move around quite a bit I had to pack things and move things and stuff like that. Also, I think talking to someone was very helpful, a real live person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At the mailbox, you met somebody, or in your car, something happened, you talked to someone?
No, the woman across the street in the old apartment, she helped me move. She actually helped me move.
Yeah, so you had some interaction.
Yes.
Okay. Do you feel better if you go into your car and drive and stuff? Does that help?
A little bit. But it's really, for me, it's really interacting with real live person.
Yeah. How do you have any problem getting into the car? Does it change with your hand problem?
I was very fearful today driving, so I did not do the I-5 because having control of the steering wheel was difficult. Going was more painful than coming back. So I'm thinking that tomorrow I'm going to be trying to do more exercises and move around more. I think it will help everything. Yeah. So, and I have a lot of.
You feel like exercise of your whole body will help you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Because I had to pack up quite a few things, and so tomorrow I'm going to go through the things that I brought, and hopefully move around a little bit. That'll give me an excuse to move around, not just walking, but using my upper body also.
Yeah, but your whole body is bent over. Isn't that terribly difficult, actually?
Difficult to what? To walk?
Yeah, to just move around and lift things. And I mean, you really want to do that?
Well, I don't know. Today, I thought I wouldn't. I thought I would. It would be very, very difficult. But the more I moved around, and the more I did, I don't know. It's how can I say it? The more I had to use my arms and my hand, it felt better. But I think also it was the Rutox. I really, really think it was the Rutox.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you're not affected, but can you read? You can read and everything. The lights being. You said your apartment was very dark. Is that affecting this hand at all?
No, I don't think so. No. No.
Okay. And your head is not you're sneezing or moving your head and that sort of thing. Does it affect the hand?
No.
Okay.
No.
And you don't have any trouble talking or mental effort, that kind of stuff. You can figure out all that.
No, I don't think so. As I said, when I take the Tylenol, then I'm not sure because I having interaction is very limited now, so I'm not really sure. And I don't have friends who will say, "Oh, you're not making sense today,"
That doesn't happen. Oh, you don't have friends to say that.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, well, you're making plenty of sense. Don't worry about it, Mary. I'll tell you, you're making plenty of sense. Don't worry about it. So, are you have any trouble with eating and drinking? Or
No. And because because I've been sleeping a lot and laying down a lot, I'm not that hungry. Yeah, but I realize that I have to. I don't force myself to eat because the cooking that I'm doing is very simple and I enjoy it. So, but I think the amount I've cut back quite a bit on the amount that I'm eating.
Are you trying to cut back?
I would like to. I feel better when I'm a little bit lighter, not so heavy. I'm 130 pounds right now, and I feel better when I'm 120. Yeah. But we'll see.
Okay, so how is your appetite?
Appetite is good.
You actually want to eat?
Yes.
You're just trying to decrease the weight so it's less to carry around.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. How about your thirst? Is it normal?
Yes.
Does your hand feel better if you eat cold things or warm things or drink?
I don't know. I'm just craving warm. I have soy milk, and I really crave having it warm. I don't know why.
It makes you feel better?
What can I say? I don't know if it makes me feel better, but I have not had any cold soy milk since I've moved here. I've been and even before I was heating it up and putting a little bit of different kinds of flavoring in it.
How do you feel with breakfast? Can you eat breakfast?
I eat one meal a day. Usually one meal a day. Yeah, and then the rest of the time I kind of snack. I've been eating a lot of popcorn.
Oh, really? So
yeah,
snacking is really important.
Yes, yeah. Before I would have nuts and what else did I? An apple, and I haven't haven't figured out how to order apples yet. From
order apples?
Yes, you have to order. You have to order, and then you go and pick them up.
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't go into the store.
Ah, I see. So you haven't figured out how to do that.
Yeah, because it's tricky. It's the way they have it. Anyway, and I'm when I'm pretty much settled now that if I order like a 3-pound bag, then I can cook it up and make kind of like applesauce out of it, you know?
Mm-mm.
So I'm not wasting. Yeah. So, yeah. And
well, 'tis the season right now for apples, especially in Washington State.
You know, it's funny. Most of the apples are exported.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah. But yeah. Anyway. So no, I have a good appetite. I have very good appetite.
Okay.
Yep.
And you're on the 3rd floor. Do you take an elevator or do you climb up the stairs?
No, I do an elevator, but I'm going to find out how I can do the stairs. When I go shopping and when I go to the library, I have to use the rollerator because of the weight of the things I can carry. So, but I know that there are other people on this floor who don't use the elevator; they use the stairs.
Okay, so you'd like to learn how to use the stairs.
Yeah.
Do you think you have enough breath to do that? Do you think you'd be out of breath, or is it mainly you just be too tired?
I think it's not the breath. It's weird. The woman who helped me today, she was huffing and puffing, and I don't have that problem. Maybe because I go slower. I don't know, but I've always had no problem with the stairs where I lived before. Never.
When you have this, you have low blood pressure, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like your heart is not pumping fast enough for when you stay in bed so much and it hurts and you're not moving much?
I don't know. I don't usually I don't think about my heart.
Okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Okay.
How about burping? Do you burp much?
No.
After eat?
No. I pass a lot of gas, however.
If you pass gas, does that make your hand feel better, not your general condition?
No. It doesn't have any effect.
Okay.
No.
Okay. And urination, has this been normal even when you're not getting out of bed much and all that?
I've been having problems with incontinence.
Yeah, you've had that for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And so is the urination too frequent?
It's because I've been taking the Tylenol, it suggests that you drink a lot of water. So I've been going more frequently, like every 2 hours. And so it's frequent and urgent.
You might leak.
I'm with the adult diaper group right now.
Oh, I see. So if you leak, it's not the end of the world.
No, it's not.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I don't worry about it anymore.
It's all right. You're taking care of yourself, so no big deal.
Yes.
Okay, so how about the sleeping?
Sleeping is, I'm really a professional sleeper. Really good.
So you're sleeping too much, you feel like.
Well, I don't know about that, but every once in a while I'll have a night when I cannot sleep, like from 12 o'clock to 5, and then maybe I'll go to sleep and maybe I won't. So it's weird. But then the next night I'm okay. Do
you have any idea why you can't sleep?
Mainly because I'm worried about, something that I have to do, and I'm not sure if I can do it or not.
So you have kind of a fear that you can't do things.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And my mantra is, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, to get myself to do it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and you're kind of very worried about this any new situation or any group situation, because there's always this group politics stuff that's going on.
Yeah. It's for me. It's like walking on eggs. The apartment in Everett was a little bit easier because there were fewer people, to negotiate with. So, it was only like across the hall, and downstairs the guy just ignored me, so it was okay. He would say hello, but that was it,
Uh-huh. Okay.
So fewer people. Yeah, this is going to be, and there's nothing I can do about other people. I can only do about me. So.
Yeah, but they get in your. I mean, this guy was kept on bugging you about the parking place, right?
Yeah.
And you can see that turning into something that's not very pleasant.
I'm hoping that I can just, what can I say? I've run into maybe 3 or 4 Korean women. Older, they're all older. Of course, they're older. They're all like me. And one woman said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm American." And she said, "I'm Korean." I asked her, "Where are you from?" And she said, "I'm Korean." And it was very not friendly. But then the 2 other women that I ran into, because I was going back and forth from my car to unload, and the 2 other people were very friendly. We have these masks on, so you can't really see, but they said hello and bowed their head and said hello.
Well, you're used to this because you lived in Japan, so that makes it easier, doesn't it?
But it's entirely different. They're entirely different.
Oh, they're not Japanese people at all.
No, they are not. They're aggressive. They're aggressive and loud and noisy and anyway. Yeah. They're not. It's a different culture. If you look at the map and you see how close they were to China, and they were always being invaded, I can understand why they are the way they are. Japan was isolated for 100 years, 200, 300 years.
Well,
anyway, a long time.
You're living in kind of public housing. There must be kind of a power hierarchy above this. Are you aware of how the politics of this all goes? No,
and that's the other thing. Why in the other housing complex that I was going to maybe be qualified for? I'm so glad this is much better because it's closer to the library and shopping. That they also, I think there were 35 units, and there were only like 4 people that were Caucasian, and I could read the names on the mailboxes, so I knew that they were either Korean or Chinese. Yeah, and why is this happening? I don't understand it. I have no idea why this is happening and where the politics is coming with. Why are these people qualifying? Why are they in public housing? I can't understand this. One of my former students, ESL student, was wife of an ambassador or a consulate in Korea, and they had low income housing in another area in Edmonds, and I'm sure that they're hiding their income. I'm sure, it's I don't know how they. Anyway, it's none of my business. They're here. I'm going to deal with it.
So you think that the people who are living there are actually too wealthy to live in that place?
Some of them, yep. Some of them, yep.
Yeah. Well, you were saying somebody doesn't cook. You can see in their apartment, and they're not cooking at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and there's some apartments that are have no lighting at all, and so those apartments are being used for because they're being used. Maybe they've gone back to their country and you can leave.
Like there's nobody there.
There's nobody there. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now the other one is nobody's cooking. Yeah. And the lights are on, and I can see the lights in the under the door. You can see the light in the back part of the apartment. But anyway, it's none of my business how this happened. And when I was working, I went to see an apartment complex near the college, and actually, if I had been smart enough, I would have qualified, because when I was working, my income was so low that I qualified. I wasn't.
You got richer when you quit working?
Yes.
Oh, that's pretty crazy.
Isn't it? Yeah. It's really crazy. Yeah.
Well, tell me, you there's some foods that you don't agree with you. What are those foods?
Oh, things that dairy. I can't have dairy, for sure. There's certain vegetables that I don't like. I don't like cauliflower. I don't like asparagus.
How about cabbage?
Beans. Cabbage, it depends on how it's cooked. And, I used to eat a lot of cabbage in Japan, because whatever you got, like tonkatsu or something like that, there was cabbage as the vegetable, part of the, yeah. I don't know, right now, because of the shopping, I haven't really mastered how to do this shopping, my vegetables are like broccoli and carrots and celery.
So you can eat broccoli. How about beans?
Yeah.
Do you eat many beans?
Yep.
Okay. How about oysters?
Oysters, I love oysters.
No problem with that. Okay. Overeating problems? Yeah, you were saying it's not good for you to eat too much.
Yeah, it's. I'm trying to, in this new situation, and with the COVID and with the shopping and everything, it's kind of, before I would have something like 2 eggs, like an omelet, but then I would have broccoli and tomatoes and onions and mushrooms, lots of vegetables with that. And now it's kind of, I can't choose my vegetables. I'm very unhappy. I'm very unhappy about not being able to go to the store and pick out my vegetables.
Because now you have to order them because of COVID?
I have, yes. Yeah.
You can't
Somebody else picks them
into the
out.
store.
Well, I could if I went early, but it's still exposure that I, it's a risk.
Yeah.
It's a risk, and even if somebody picks out, maybe they're not as good. But anyway, I get my vegetables, some of my vegetables, and I'm doing more frozen because then I don't throw them away. I use just what I need and don't throw them away. So anyway,
Okay. So, okay. So, do you have lycopodium in your stash of remedies? I'm
Do
pretty
I have a
sure.
what?
Did I send it? I probably didn't send it with the COVID remedies. Do you have lycopodium LYC? I don't think you've
L-Y.
ever taken it.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. Email me if you have it, and
Okay.
if I don't hear from you, I'm going to send it to you. And first, I'll
Okay.
send you a trial one, and if it's really good for you, we'll do the Fibonacci sequence. Okay. So, but right
Okay.
now, until
L-Y-C?
that comes to you, just continue with the Rus-Tox.
Okay.
Okay.
L-Y-C.
LYC.
L-Y-C?
Yeah, LYC.
Okay.
If
Okay.
you
I'll
can buy
look.
it at, can I guess you don't go around shopping right now with COVID and all this business. So just wait for me to get to you. Okay? Get it to
Okay.
you. Okay?
Okay.
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 And I really thank you for being part of my effort to educate the world about homeopathy.
Anytime, Ellen. I am so indebted to you for many, many things. Really, really, really.
Well, you are one of the jewels of my life, so it's mutual.
Okay.
Hi, I'm back again to look at the interview that you just heard and the repertorization that I did. As usual, I am full of confidence about my choice of rubrics, and they are false. So, let's look at them and let's look at this review. You, everyone should do a review. When I first began homeopathy and when I first began polarity analysis, I did not select the rubrics as I was talking to the patient. As you can see, it's quite misleading, and it may not be the best way for me to do it either. Maybe I should be taking more notes instead. Maybe I should be paying more attention to the patient instead of my repertorization. Most teachers would tell you that, doing it the ordinary way, not with polarity analysis. And I really am not good at looking at a repertory and talking to a patient. I'm not able to do it. It's just this short list is simple enough. So I've gotten used to doing it. I've sort of memorized the list over the years. And I'm sure you will do the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the problem with my repertorization, and then I'll evaluate myself after listening to my interview. This has been very good for me because I got to hear myself talking and how I am talking to my patient, and I wasn't very impressed. And then I'm going to distinguish between two possible remedies. This is called a differential diagnosis, and usually this is how I indicate that I'm doing a differential diagnosis in my notes, because I do it quite often. It's a very common practice. And so we're going to look at the common symptoms, but more at the disposition of the two remedies. That is, what is normal for this patient, and as well as what is pathological. And we're going to look at both two remedies and compare them. And then we're going to look at those two remedies on the periodic table. And this is more of just an introduction for you, because I will be using the periodic table analysis by Jan Scholten throughout my teaching with you, in hopes that I will be preparing you to be able to use this method as well as polarity analysis. We're going to talk a little bit about the difference between plants and minerals. We're going to look at a closer evaluation of my rubrics. Actually, it was the holding of the phone or a book. She felt that she was better when she moved her affected parts. So that's the hand we're talking about here. She said felt she was better. But then when I thought about it later, she was movement of her whole body that she was talking. This one here. And this one shouldn't be improved. It should be aggravated. So this is a mistake. But I was very impressed by this numerical difference that I kept on peeking at. I should have hidden it from myself so that I wouldn't be so impressed. And I would have been paying more attention to what the patient is saying, because that's much more important. And so we see when she's talking about this, she's talking about the strength of her hand. Her hand is badly affected by the swelling. It's red, it's swollen, and she's not able to make a fist. And so, but there's nothing in this rubric list here that it talks about strength specifically. So which rubric better expresses the core problem of strength? Now remember, I'm looking specifically at the hand problem for the core, not every aspect of the patient. And later on, we're going to talk much more generally about the patient, and you'll see that getting that information is essential to the interview. So you can't just be focusing on these checklist information. You are focusing on it, but at the same time, you're encouraging the patient to tell you who they are. And so you have kind of a focus that you are not really enforcing. Okay, you're not trying to keep the patient focused on this list at all. Now, if I change this repertorization to movement of the affected part, then we see that sulfur rises to the top. And I should have noticed this, that she said she was holding this hand all the time when she was walking around, when she was moving around. And I was asking about this in the context of, does it feel better if you rub it, or does it feel better if it's warm or cold? The other rubrics. And what she said was she's thinking of getting a wrist brace or something to keep her hand from moving, because she feels like if the hand moves, it hurts more. And this was a very important statement, I think. And I got mixed up because I was thinking movement of the whole body, therefore movement of the affected parts also improves, which is false. That's false. Sulfur came up. Lycopodium is a plant. It's a fern. And sulfur is, and so is Rustox. Sulfur is a mineral. I've given her many minerals before, but I wasn't really thinking in those days about, is this patient a mineral? I didn't have that kind of thought process in place at the time. And I say here that minerals are concerned with advancing their place in the hierarchy, but the hierarchy isn't really the hierarchy of an organization. It's the hierarchy of life, of the process of life, whether they're going forward in the process of living. You start as a baby crawling on the floor, and you don't have any plans for your life, and then eventually you kind of get a sense of yourself, and then you have things that you like to do and that you want to do, and that are you able to do those things. And by this time she's clearly had a whole career as a teacher, and she's now at 80, she's retired, and her body is saying it's not going to support her. So she's gone through the process of life, and we're going to talk about this more. But everyone has this task. Lycopodium has a task too, but they're defending themselves in the hierarchy and among people. They're very vulnerable and sensitive and reactive. So these aspects are plant problems. And honestly, she is vulnerable and sensitive and reactive. So it's easy for me to say she's a plant. You have to look a little more closely at what we mean by a plant and what we mean by a mineral. I'm going to go into this more I myself am now working with this differentiation. So if I don't give it to you perfectly, you ask questions and let's pick it apart more and see if you can understand more. And so let's go back to the repetirization here. Movement of affected parts aggravates. So the polarity symptom is movement of the affected part improves the situation. And this is contraindicated both for Lycopodium and for Rhus-Tox. And if it's contraindicated, it becomes gray, and therefore we don't use those remedies. Okay, she's taking Rhus-Tox now, and she thinks it works pretty well, and she's happy with Rhus-Tox, but I'm not happy. And I'm thinking about Lycopodium because of the difference here that comes out. Okay, but those are grayed out, and sulfur is the one that rises to the top. Okay, you see that one rubric changes the entire repetirization. To me, in the beginning, this was very unnerving because, you can make a mistake and you miss the mistake and then you make the wrong remedy. Yeah, you give the wrong remedy and then you work on it again and you figure out a better remedy. Sometimes you give the wrong remedy and they have an aggravation. You use that aggravation to find the right remedy. Okay, so there isn't it's not like the end of the world if you didn't find your mistake. And another thing to look at is if I didn't poke around here and see what happens if I change the repetirization. If I didn't do that, I never would have found this. So you do need to you're questioning yourself. To me, it's a little bit like I kind of imagine that I am in a court of law and I'm a lawyer arguing a case. So I make a case for myself. That's how I get myself to look at the other alternatives. And I've done this all my homeopathic life. I've been a lawyer, arguing with myself. And I want to think through all the movement rubrics today. I don't always do that, but in this case, it seems that movement is a place where I became confused about her answers. I could talk to her again, but after I thought about it for a while, I realized that she had said enough to tell me, and it was all recorded, and I listened to the recording again. That certainly helped. But you don't do that in normal cases. So often I'm talking to the patient again where I think I might have had a misunderstanding. It can be very useful. I put here that she desires movement. I'm looking at the movement rubrics. And she kept talking about wanting, she does the Bob Cooley exercises. She wants to get back to the Bob Cooley exercises. She keeps talking about movement. And so you get the impression that she thinks movement is great. She wants to move. She's saying that. But I know for a fact that when she feels bad, she reads books. She has stacks of books from the library. She loves to read books. And the whole idea is to be sedentary. It isn't to be moving around. She's only talking about moving around so much because I have very loudly over the years encouraged her to move. I would say if you don't move it, you lose it. And it may be true, but I've told her what my values are, that you got to move. I do that to myself, so I think she should move. But she likes to stay in bed and read books. I know that. And she's told me that in other cases and stuff. We're looking for a deep chronic remedy. I haven't found a deep enough remedy over all these years. I've tried many things and I've gotten to know her better, but I haven't found it yet. And so using that information from past interactions, I know this. If this was your first time meeting her and you didn't understand that, well, God bless you. I mean, it's not easy to understand either. And I know she's trying to please me because, I'm her good friend and I've always helped her out. Okay, so she's talking about movement of her whole body. And so these are both wrong answers. that I have put in there, okay? And so if I remove them, what happens? This is what happens. Sulfur comes to the top. And resting, not moving, aggravates. This is what she's saying. And so I believe what she says, but I had to kind of read and realize that, oh no, she says she sleeps all the time. What she's doing is not moving. She's not, and she kind of wants to say that sleeping is not good for her, but it's pretty evident that she's very exhausted, that, she's moving her room, and I'm going to talk to you about her room in a little while. This is no small project for a person who's bent in half and using a walker, who is moving herself. She's not moving with the help of a moving crew or anything. She's doing this all by herself. So here we are with a very, very different lineup of symptoms. And we have this red, low reliability symptom, better from physical exercise. She feels that she's, I put this in here. Yeah, she moving around has been bad for her. I mean, this is kind of an iffy one. I don't know if you would put this in here or not. But in any case, sulfur comes up very strongly whether you put it in here or not. So, you just play around with this. And Sabina, I checked it out. I know this. It's all about hormones. It's a very hormonal remedy. Lumina is a very unsure of herself kind of person. This patient is very, in a way, very sure of herself. She's done a lot of things all by herself under very bad circumstances. None of these remedies make sense except for sulfur. And I've used sulfur with her before. Okay, so I'm going to now self-evaluate. And you can evaluate me too. I'd be happy to hear your evaluations. So I'm talking to an old friend, and I'm kind of sloppy because I'm asking leading questions. Did you catch the leading questions? Leading questions are not good in homeopathy. The thing is, this is my friend, and you heard her saying, "No, that's not right. No, that's not right." She would, if I ask the leading question and I'm give her the wrong answer from her point of view, she tells me right away, and it's always been like that. She's I know she's very easygoing about contradicting me, and I welcome it. So it's kind of our talking style, I think. But she's eager to please me, and so I was fooled, in this stuff about liking to move. I was fooled because I'm eager to believe her. She's my friend, But she asked a number of she gave me some kind of contradictory information. Like she likes pressure. At first she said, then she says she wants to support her hand so it doesn't move. And then pressure, she said, no, pressure is not something that she likes. She is not even sure she wants touch. A little bit of rubbing. She's very unsure about that. It's anything that moves her hand probably is not very comfortable. And she thinks she should exercise. And the long run, she feels better if she does move. And she knows that I'm an advocate for exercise for her. But the movement of her hand, it's the hand we're concerned about, makes her hand hurt. So I decided not to use this desire to move. On Dr. Frei's site, he says you need to have at least 8 symptoms. Look, I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 symptoms, and I thought this was kind of iffy. I don't have very many symptoms even. So maybe according to Dr. Frei, I don't have enough. But I'm happy enough with the results here, and I'll show you why. Okay. So this is what I did. I thought I'd send her Lycopodium and sulfur. He likes us to send 2 remedies with a patient. Have a first choice and a second choice. Actually, as I'm thinking through this, I might send a different remedy than Lycopodium. I kind of talked myself out of Lycopodium by doing this, preparing for what I'm doing with you here. And I'd probably send her something that's connected to sulfur. So she has a 6C. So I'm asking her to use it with the 5-cup method. I don't want her to aggravate because that will discourage her. And she has aggravated on 6C before, so I'm very careful. And I'll wait for the results of the 6C before I send a remedy. She's not dying of anything, so it's all right if it takes 10 days for that remedy to get to the United States. Now, my patient, does she match? She matches Lycopodium or sulfur. And if we look at the physical characteristics and the disposition, which one does she match better? Okay. I wasn't so clear about this until I started, putting it all together. And remember, the disposition includes the pathological aspects and the normal emotional mental characteristics. And in the way that I am thinking, disposition that's normal and pathological is, I want to know both of those. Some teachers only want you to be thinking about the pathological aspect, but that's not how I'm thinking. Okay, so I'm taking this next section with these beautiful cartoons from cartoons by Vicki Matheson, and I think they're very good. So we're going to look and see in my patient's case what was this. She's very intelligent, she's very inventive. This is sulfur. I forgot to write this down. I'm sorry. This is sulfur. And sulfur loves to philosophize. They say he's the ragged philosopher. And he likes to explain things, and he's interested in other people's reaction and interest. He loves to talk. Here she is, the teacher. Remember, she's a teacher of ESL. And she was talking about the Koreans in her housing complex. Did she feel threatened by them? Was she personally insecure? Or what she seemed to be talking about more was about injustice in the public housing system. Why was the building? Why were there 80% Koreans? That does sound unusual. And she's very concerned with justice, and she's very concerned with the politics. What is happening in the world? She talks about this to me often, and she listens to Radio Canada to find out what's going on in the world because she doesn't think that the U.S. media gives her accurate information. And so she's really I think she's really concerned with justice in the public housing of Seattle. And I know this about her. She stood on street corners 10 years ago with the Quakers, calling for peace, she's among conservative people. She is not interested in the important things in the world. She's interested in what is garbage to a very conservative person. She is a king of the compost heap, crowing for what she thinks is important. She's an ESL teacher, and she's for immigrant students. She's for world peace and injustice. And she doesn't care if most of the more conservative world thinks that she's into compost or manure. She wants to stand there and crow in a very conservative situation. I suspect her world is not full of peace lovers or people who will stand on street corners protesting. Now, this is Mangialavari. He's a homeopath that I highly respect, an Italian, and I've taken many lectures from him. And what he says is that sulfur can invent symptoms and problems. That's why the repertory is so full of sulfur symptoms. Jeremy Scher, another homeopath, says that when you begin homeopathy, you think everybody needs sulfur because it always comes to the top of the list. I actually knew that, so I was always very afraid of using sulfur. I should have used it more, but he said that most beginners use it not enough, and use it too much. And then when you get good at it, you can recognize a sulfur and a sulfur patient, and you use it a lot once you're good at it. But that takes a long time. But what Mandavari says is when one symptom disappears, sulfur is so inventive, they can invent another. You know that sulfur is the main ingredient in proteins, and our whole body is made of proteins. You know, protein synthesis is all about making a different one. And there are so many different ones. So one of the characteristics of sulfur is if a project fails, if a relationship fails, if he loses his followers, he will find new followers. He will find a new project. In my patient's case, she lived in Japan and she escaped her husband and left her children when they were grown up. And she started a new life in America. She went to Japan not knowing anybody and just started a new life there. She didn't move more than that. I think I'm worse than she is probably, but she will start a new life. She will start new relationships. She went back to Seattle because she has old friends there. She grew up there. But she's very willing to start a new life, not afraid at all. And, you know, sulfur is the central element in protein, as I said. And my patient is strongly built. She has thick bones, and she's really challenged by poverty. She's working for the community college system, which pays her enough to be impoverished. And now she's dealing with aging and going. She's gotten into public housing finally. It was really hard to get in. So, but she never gave up. She kept trying, and she's not like she had any advocacy from anybody else. It was all her own effort. She's really a very strong, but she was making mugs for the disabled elderly, and she was giving them away because she knew so many people like herself who was having trouble holding things. She was having this hand problem for a long time. And as her hand got worse, she couldn't make pottery. She married a man in Japan in order to make pottery. I mean, pottery was so important to her. And when she lived in Seattle, the apartment she moved into was unheated. And when I visited her, I was just astounded because there were piles of bags and boxes. There wasn't any of the normal furniture. She had a desk, I think, that was just piled high with things. And she could find a pill cutter in all of that. And this is the thing about sulfur. This chaotic way that they live is actually organized. And they don't want you to touch their things because it is organized and they do know where things are. It's just like somehow something is missing from their aesthetic sense, maybe? I don't know. I mean, she made very beautiful pottery before her hand began to hurt. And then she couldn't make the pottery on the wheel, which is the way, the best way to make pottery. But anyway, if she couldn't make it on the wheel, she built pots, and she she had the pottery sitting in her one-bedroom apartment, bags and boxes, and then she had boxes of worksheets for students, and all the time she was making new worksheets for them, and she kept them and she filed them and she reused them and refined them, and she really worked at this. Wasn't just collecting things. Like this kind of looks like sort of a collection for what reason. It's very, very focused collecting. And it was very difficult for her to get rid of all these treasures. For years and years and years, she was talking about getting rid of it, but it just kind of didn't happen. And so they have kind of a sense of beauty that feels like a cartoon. Tellurium has the same sense. It's very striking. They say that usually the clothing, there's something missing from the clothing. I never noticed anything from that, but you look at me, I'm not well dressed at all, so how would I know? And they say they're very egocentric, but I think it's the opposite. She's really focused on other people and people who feel unloved, helping other people. If she's egocentric, it's not obvious at all. But what is very evident was that she felt unloved by her family, and things that happened when she was an adolescent just affected her for her whole life in terms of her reaction to her family, because she had a fairly idealistic view of human relationships. She wanted perfect harmony, and it just didn't happen. It was so disappointing for her. So this lower lumbar weakness that she had, she really looked like this. Is very distinctive for sulfur. It's often mentioned in the books. And I gave her trekking sticks, hoping that she would use them to help herself stand up straight. But she didn't want to use them because if other people saw her with something that looked like a cane, then they would think that she was weak. I told her it's for sports, but she couldn't get over it, so she never used them. And there's something about sulfur that it's burning. The head, the top of the head, the feet, the hands all tend to be burning, and the skin problems are dry and burning. Okay, and I didn't hear a lot about burning. I think maybe she was too old and too tired to burn. But this is the burning of sulfur is very hot and lively. It's a live burning. This is in contrast to arsenicum, where the burning is dead coals, things that are, it's black, it's dark, it's not a bright burning. And she said she snacks all day and eats only one time a day. She's trying to lose weight. I couldn't quite understand what that's all about, but this snacking she's very good at having snacks all day and just eat once a day. I think it was also less trouble. So another aspect of sulfur is it's a centrifuge. This machine. You put these bottles of blood or whatever you want inside the machine, and then all of the heavier things, they go to the bottom. They go outward, and so you separate the parts of the blood using the centrifuge. The same way, if you circle a ball around, centrifugal force sends things out. Sulfur is very much based on centrifugal force. So it will force things out onto the skin. So when I gave her sulfur, she immediately got hives. And so we quit at that time. She was I was a nutty person anyway, trying to help her. So I didn't want to push my luck. So I just stopped the sulfur. But, and you have to be careful. In the beginning of homeopathy, people said that Hahnemann used sulfur to begin all of his cases to get rid of all the medicines and stuff that people were taking. But there are lots of remedies that have this centrifugal force. Among them are sepia and nux vomica, but There are other ones. Sulfur does this too. But then that means that you have to be careful about this sensitivity of the skin, okay? Because it'll send it out to the skin. The better place is for it to go out with the feces, out with the bowel movement. Okay, so other things she had that are typical of sulfur is venous congestion. So she has veins that are swollen on her legs. And she sleeps a long time. This is typical. And ailments from a loss of reputation. So this, I can't use trekking sticks because people will think I'm weak. I have to portray myself as strong. This is kind of that kind of feeling. I can't lose my reputation. There were a lot of decisions she made on the basis of I need to maintain my self-image, but it's more image in the eyes of other people, not how I feel about myself. And then having a delusion of abundance of everything. This was, I'm kind of you don't have much, and you somehow or another it's enough. I'm always telling you less is better, that kind of stuff. And she was like that, so I thought, well, I knew she was impoverished, but I wouldn't, if I didn't think of sulfur, I wouldn't have thought of this at all, excepting that she was always telling me that she had enough, that there was enough food. She told me all her strategies to make her budget work, and she actually saved money so she couldn't go to public housing because she saved some money. And they can become very concerned with their personal appearance and very indifferent. So this is kind of one of the tricky things in homeopathy. When they're feeling great, they're very concerned with their physical appearance. But you see here, his toes are coming out of his shoes. He's got a problem here, and he doesn't notice it. I didn't notice that with her. She didn't have enough money to be that concerned with her dress, and she wasn't very concerned. But she had no back problem. She's bent over in half, and she didn't notice that she had a back problem. People were telling her that she needs to stand up straight, but she just couldn't be concerned with her personal appearance. And fear of contagious diseases. Now with COVID, I think it's true of many people, but she doesn't want to go to the grocery store, even going in early to the grocery store when there are fewer people. She can't even think about it. It's just too scary. There are too many people running around without masks, and she is just so angry with them because they are trying to infect her. At the same time, she's a buggy person who's trying to affect others with her ideas. So there's kind of I want to infect other people. I want to teach immigrants. I love to talk about ideas. I want you to understand my ideas. And at the same time, I fear infection. So it's amazing that she got into homeopathy. I think I just succeeded enough times. But I could have been one of those infectious ideas that she was trying to avoid. They usually have this diarrhea early in the morning. She didn't have that. And they have a lot of skin discharges. And the only one I heard about was the hives after sulfur. So in the past, I'd given her sulfur 6C. And I warned her of the possibilities of aggravation. I kind of err in the direction of warning people. Sometimes I scare people, and I don't know how. Sometimes it's very good to tell them ahead of time what could happen, and then it never happens. And then sometimes you tell them, and they say, "Well, I'm not going to take that. Forget that." So you have to be pretty good at reading minds when you warn people. I don't have the magic bullet myself. It's on the periodic table, right? It's not in the plant kingdom. She's probably not an animal. She's not very aggressive or concerned with other people being aggressive, excepting the ones who are going to infect her. I think she's one of these, okay? And so here we have the periodic table, and I'm going to go over this many times. I don't expect you to memorize this. It's like you've heard this from Silly Ellen, and she keeps telling you about it. So, months down the road, you think that this is naturally the way homeopathy works, and you understand this pretty well. I'd like that to happen. I don't expect you to understand it, or, just listen to me, bear with me. This is kind of a way for you to have a map, so you're not thinking about every remedy as unrelated to every other remedy, which is, to me, this is the way I learned homeopathy, and it's just so, it's discouraging for me. I mean, I thought I had to memorize stuff. I didn't have to memorize it, and I learned it I learned all kinds of information just by passing by my face, by my ears often enough. So this is silica here, here's carbon, and here's sulfur. Okay, these are the three remedies we're going to talk about. And these are the stages on the periodic table. Okay, they're called columns in chemistry, but it's called stages in this discussion. And these rows here, rows on the periodic table, are called series. So each of these rows is a different series. So you need the stage and the row in order to identify what the remedy's about. Okay, this carbon thing often it's about dad, it's about parents, it's about me and my little tiny family, just my parents and me as an individual, and it's carbon who wants to be in his safe home and wants the support of his close family. So that's the row here. This is the series. Okay, that's the description of the series. The next in the series is silica. It's also pronounced silicia. Silicia. And it's about relationships. It's sometimes about the mom. And so silica here is, the homeopathic name is silicia, is the same row as sulfur. Okay, so sulfur is going to share the characteristics of all the remedies in this row. And the third row is ferrum. Remember the case about Hank, and he was definitely a worker kind of person. And so we thought maybe he's here on this row. Okay, if you remember that video. So we kind of differentiate by knowing how big the person's world is. The world gets bigger as you go down. Okay, if you go down to this level, you're talking about culture, and here you're talking about political leadership. The silicum series is this row here where sulfur is. So if we think about my patient on the silicum series, her relationships were not about the content of her work, and they weren't about hierarchy. They were about the relationships with other people, and she always had lots of emotion poured into relationships. Some of it was negative, some of it was positive, but her talk was about relationships and how people related to her. Friends, work people, students, they were all seen by her as a relationship. Okay? Not as, for instance, at work, people were competitive, and she saw that competitiveness, but it was always a relationship with her. Okay? And then the next thing is the family, and her father left her when she was very small. And there's a lot of forsaking in her family. Her family members, they don't have an interest in taking care of one another, or, they leave one another. They don't speak to one another. It's kind of astounding when you hear this, but, this is, and she also left her family. She had a very hard time connecting to her family in Japan. Very, very difficult. Okay, so these relationships. the other side of her when she's angry, or because I know about her anger and all that sort of thing, but I never saw it. I don't have a visceral sense of it. But she had a lot of love-hate in content. It was very intense. And her talk is all about, he said this and I said this, and even at the mailbox, he said this, I said that. It's all about communication. Now, you remember she's fluent in Japanese and she's an ESL teacher. So learning languages is really important to her. She reads all the time. Life is a presentation. Her clothes were not fancy or anything. So about art, she denies that her back is bent. My appearance doesn't matter was it's kind of indifference. And the art thing was, I'm totally passionate about art and the presentation of the art and art shows and all this sort of thing. She really participated in all that kind of thing. It was a very important person in her pottery studio because she helped to organize these art events. The teenager period is very important for this entire row. Okay, so the relationships of her adolescence were so disappointing, and they kind of set the tone for the rest of her life. And those same relationships she could never revive again. Okay. And she talked about, the neighbor coming in to help her, and the man across the way from her apartment never talked to her. And, how her home life her neighborhood is organized. She had a garden outside, and she grew vegetables, and she had a gardening friends, and she had a very full life. But it was based on home and neighborhood. Let's look at the stage. Right. Just now we looked at the series, right? This is all about the series. So it's about this row. And the other part of it is the stage here. So the stage is about this column. It's about this column here, right? Stage 16. These all have a numerical identity. So this stage, it's pretty far down in life. You get over here and it's almost dying. You deny that there's any life. And here, 17, things are really far gone. Sulfur, despite the fact that sulfur is the center of protein, it's about loss and decay. For protein to be useful for us, we need to constantly renew it, and so the loss and decay seems to be very strong for this whole sequence here. Okay, and at this stage of her life, all of her friends are dying at age 80, of course, and she's losing connection with her children. They're all in Japan. There's a lot of loss going on here, okay? And she's living on reserves. She said she had less money working than she has now retired. And she put money into some fund to go to the Louvre, hoping that she would be able to see this beautiful art museum walking, but she never got strong enough to walk. She has this expectation, dreams, hope, and they often were not met. Children and family, they didn't meet her expectation, her dreams. So she goes into kind of a fantasy world, and she's into political activism and idealism, and this is her comfort. Okay. But she's very indifferent to many things, indifferent to her living circumstances, lazy about cleaning out her apartment. Her back is bent in half. I don't know how lazy you'd call her, but, she, over many, many years, I don't know how she got moved. It's amazing. But she managed to move. It's just incredible. She said, I think I can. I'm that little engine of a little train, and I think I can do it. She has hopes and expectations. At the same time, life just is really not possible in some ways. And she's concerned about these Koreans and the unjust use of public housing. But she says, it's none of my business. Nothing I can do. What can you do? What can she do? I don't know. So she neglects her own appearance. She neglects her back. She neglects her house. And she's looking for medical help. She's looking for advice. She's looking for a way to survive. She got into public housing against all odds. She made long-term plans. She kept redoing the papers, reapplying, finally got in. But, her body and her muscles and her joint and her kidney are kind of used up. This is close to the end of life. 80 years old. I guess it's okay. It's a long life. Very hardworking life. Okay, so we're going to go back to Lycopodium. I think when Lycopodium rose to the top of the repertory, I kind of wished it would be true. I thought about it, but she definitely was not a born leader in her family. She was more of an outcast, and she strongly resented her family members, who were the bosses. They were bossing her around, not the other way around. And they weren't recognizing her. This is very hard on a sulfur. The Lycopodium baby has skinny legs, big head, kind of not my patient, I don't think. She wanted a private kingdom in her classroom. She became an ESL teacher. I introduced her to a job, and she just took it on and became the ESL teacher. And I think she was educated as a elementary school teacher, but she took it on. And Lycopodium is more plagued by cowardliness. I mean, she was not a coward. And they want to keep their projects small enough so they don't fail. And they have a lot of panic. I don't think this was her at all. Lycopodium is a small fern that you find at the bottom of the forest. And it was in the ancient forests of prehistoric times. It was a huge tree among other huge trees. And the Lycopodium character is to feel much bigger than they are. So, they really want to be high up on this ladder. They're ambitious. They want to be bigger than they are. It's just the fear of failure and too much responsibility that just really scares them. And they have trouble with gas in the abdomen. And she said, "Oh yeah, I have gas in the abdomen. Farting doesn't make me feel better." It's something I pulled out of her. It wasn't something she talked about. If she was a Lycopodium, she would have actually talked to me about her gas. Okay, and she would have had these gallbladder problems, liver problems, kidney stones. None of this. She's never talked about any of this. This is Now, she talked about dishonest students and students who were bullies. And sometimes I wondered, was she a dictator? But probably not, because she was always very concerned about the principle that was being disregarded, or injustice. This is very different. Lycopodium is trying to cover up for a lack of confidence. So they become dictatorial, to be bigger than they really are. This image is very important for understanding a Lycopodium. Now, if we look at Lycopodium among the polycrest plants, where does it line up? What can you learn by understanding how homeopaths understand Lycopodium among other remedies with lots of rubrics? Okay, first of all, it's very low in the hierarchy of plants in terms of, it's a very old plant. It was a plant in the Cambrian period. So it has a number 4 here, 400. As you go up higher, these become 330, 350, 616, 660. They go up in number. This is 500. But these low plants, there are not a lot of them in homeopathy. But Lycopodium is probably the only really big polycrest among these remedies that are low on this tree. It was the spores of the plant were crushed up in Hahnemann's day, and they were used to cover pills, so bad tasting herbs were tasteless. So what do these numbers mean? Okay, these numbers, if you go to Cajur, this site given by Jan Schulten, you'll find a number like this. I'm not going to explain all of these numbers. These have to do with the class, okay, all these 400 ones, the class and subclass and all that kind of stuff. These are, this I'm not going to explain. But this is a stage, okay? So the stage is here, stage 6, okay? And where's Lycopodium? Lycopodium is here. So the series is here, and Lycopodium is on this row. It's in stage 6 and on this row here, okay? And you find this in Cajur. So what is stage 6 about? The stages are very important in identifying plants. Okay, so what I'm going to do with you is to help you to understand where the major plants are on this periodic table, where the major minerals are on the periodic table, and then you'll be able to put in the animals and the disease tissues and all this other stuff later, not now. Okay, so stage 6 is about taking up the challenges of life. It's kind of a daredevil stage, but they have to prove themselves because they're not sure that they can do it. Whatever their task is kind of initiation by fire. They have no real confidence. The thing about Lycopodium not having confidence is very, very important. And they feel that the adventures of being in Series 6 is really something that's inevitable. There's nothing they can do about it. So they force themselves to overcome their fears. They have lots of fears, and they overcome their fears, and they just march up there, and they get the job done. They're very willing to learn from teaching. They want feedback. They want positive feedback. They want love, and they're cooperative. Okay, so if you compare the stage 6 and stage 7, then Lycopodium is very unsure that they can do the task. By doing the task, they'll prove themselves. In stage 7, the next one up here, they know they can. They only need a little more training, a little more skill. Actually, what's happening here is you start here with absolutely no sense of what the task is, no sense of who you are, and you build up to here to a very mature place, stage 10. Okay? So this is before really being mature about your task, really believing that you have the ability to perform successfully your task. Okay? And then life goes downhill. Okay? I don't think Mary is at this kind of place at all. But I'm going to explain it to you anyway, just so you can get an idea of how this is all set up. Okay, so stage 6, and this is the carbon series. Carbon is over here. Each of these series is defined by one of the major polycrest remedies that's in the series, and carbon is a big remedy. So it's called the carbon series, and we have Lycopodium is here. This is all minerals, but all the plants can fit through the stages and the series. They can fit here. This part differentiates them, and this is more complicated, so we're not going to go into that. I just want you to get the basic structure. So the carbon series is a ego as a person. Who am I? I'm the hero. I'm going to do this impossible task. I'm very sensitive to touch. I'm an individual. My self-worth has something to do with magic and the myth of a body and lots of imagination. They're full of vitality and lust, life. Their possessions are very important to them because they're just starting out life. What the little they have is very important. They're naive and childlike, like a toddler. They're playful. Sometimes they're shameless, like a child. They just have no sense of shame. They're very concerned with good versus bad. Like in the fairy tales, there's the good guys and the bad guys. Those kind of stories are attractive to them. And they have fears of deaths and ghosts and danger and disease. Okay? So, they live in a certain kind of world in this series here. Okay? This carbon series. It's not it's a toddler. So as you go down here, it becomes more and more a mature adult. Is my patient a plant or an animal? First of all, plants can't move. So they need some other way to perform the challenges of their life. And minerals, on the other hand, need a way to maintain their structure, maintain who they are. And so between plants and animals, there's a different level of complexity. Plants are more complex than minerals. Minerals have only 2 factors. So if we're looking at this analysis, minerals are just the stage and the series that they're in. So you only need to identify 2 factors, which is relatively simple. But if you're talking about a plant, you got this middle number here. And I'm not going to talk about it. We've identified Lycopodium, and you see there's all kinds of things about their feeling about whether they can do this task or not, what their relationship is to the task in life, or to what concerns them, how much they're into the social group or out of it, where they stand among other people. These kinds of issues are big for the plant. Okay, my patient really was not in a very good position in life, but she had her own kind of sense of, I think I can do it. And it wasn't very dependent on other people making her life happen. Okay, so now we're closing down here, but why would you agonize over this hand? And why would I be looking at all the different rubrics and worrying about them so much? Aren't these local symptoms? That's maybe what you're thinking. And in a chronic case, using polarity symptoms, you can really focus on something very specific. In this case, I chose to do that. I don't do that every time. I could have looked at her back, but it seemed that her hand was something that was so important to her right now that it was totally worthwhile just focusing on that. But actually, I'm much more ambitious. I'm not looking at every rheumatoid arthritis symptom in her case or in the big repertory, okay? And I've given her remedies before for rheumatoid arthritis. This is a long-term problem, and I haven't kind of found the remedy. It's sad, but I've found things that have helped her, and they've pulled her out of jams, and they've, we've gone through a lot. She's depression and all kinds of other things. We've gone through a lot of things besides rheumatoid arthritis. But these were the remedies that I gave for rheumatoid arthritis, and they didn't have a long-term effect. She's happy with Rustox, and it's helping her with the pain. But I'm not happy because it's not curative. And I think my remedies should be curative, even when you're 80 years old. Okay, Rustox also does not fit her disposition. I can't go into it now, but it doesn't fit, as well as sulfur does. And it's interesting that tellurium did help her back quite a bit. And tellurium and sulfur are closely related. They are in the same column, and tellurium is down here. Okay, so in that sense, tellurium might work too. And that tellurium worked, and sulfur, she reacted to sulfur, tells me that sulfur might be, it's very possible that sulfur is the right remedy. Okay, and I gave her 6C in the past, sulfur 6C, and it brought out hives. So I know she'll react to it. It's going to, this thing about centrifugal force. Sulfur will force out the hives for her. So I've asked her to use the 5-cup method. If you don't know what the 5-cup method is, put it into the search bar at the bottom of my site, and I have a full explanation of it. So if sulfur and tellurium do not help her, I'll go to the CD and start messing around with those rubrics. But hopefully either sulfur will bring out some symptoms that I can use better, or tellurium will do that. That's what I'm hoping. Or it'll actually be the curative remedy. And in my experience, polarity analysis has been very good at finding deep chronic remedies. Something that's really going to help her. She's 80 years old. She's had a hard life. But something that will help her through the rest of her life. I'm with her in any case, but I wish the best for her. So this has been Ellen Madono, and I'm talking to you from Tokyo Homeopathy. And we have been discussing a rheumatoid arthritis case. And I've been talking about case taking. I'm also talking about comparing two remedies and about how you think about remedies. There's a lot of content in here, but I hope you forgive me for being long. Okay, thank you for watching, and I really enjoy working with you.